right, guys, adding and subtracting complex numbers or imaginary numbers is kind of like combining like terms. So when we start this question here, this is number 1 on your worksheet that's on the next slide. All right, negative I plus 6I, they both have an imaginary component. They're both imaginary numbers, so that makes them like terms. So I can combine those two together. So remember, adding a negative number is like subtracting. So 6I minus I is going to give me 5I. There's your answer to number 1. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this is number 8 on your worksheet, adding and subtracting complex numbers. We're actually subtracting these two complex numbers. So this is a complex number here, and that's a complex number there. And we're subtracting those two numbers from each other. Here's what I would do just to simplify things. This is like having an imaginary 1 in front of that parentheses. This means that I'm multiplying negative 1 to everything inside the parentheses. So I'm distributing that negative 1. So that's what I'm going to do instead of trying to subtract. So negative 5 plus 3i, it's okay if I drop the parentheses here. Negative 1 times 4 gives me negative 4. Negative 1 times negative 5i gives me a positive 5i. Now I can get to that point where I'm combining like terms. So I'm combining real numbers, that's negative 5, and negative 4, gives me negative 9. And then I'm combining imaginary numbers, which is 3i and 5i, which gives me plus 8i. So there's my answer for question 8. These next couple questions are only on the honors homework. However, if you are in the standard math 4 class, I would highly recommend that you try them, or at least watch this part of the video. What makes this honors level is that we're just adding or subtracting a third term. All right, instead of just adding or subtracting 2 numbers, now we're adding and subtracting 3 numbers. So in this case, we're subtracting this number, that complex number, and this complex number. So just like I did in the example before, I'm going to pretend those are negative 1s, and I'm going to distribute. All right, I'm going to kind of do it all at once here. So negative 4 minus 7i, it's okay if I drop those parentheses, not a problem. Negative 1 times 4 gives me negative 4. 5i times negative 1 gives me negative 5i. And then negative 1 times 2 gives me negative 2. And then negative 1 times a negative I gives me a positive I. All right, now I can combine like terms. So I'm actually going to circle my real numbers here. All right, and if you have different colored pencils, this is great to do that with. All right, so I got negative 4 combined with negative 4 gives me negative 8. And then negative 8 combined with negative 2 gives me negative 10. So I got negative 10 as my real answer, or the real part of my answer. I'm going to put triangles around my imaginary parts, all right, especially if you don't have colored pencils. That way you can keep them separate. Those are my like terms. So negative 7i minus 5i is going to give me negative 12i. And then I'm adding an I to it, which gives me negative 11i. Okay, that would be my answer for that question there. All right, one more example. All right, this is question 18. Same thing. I'm going to start with pretending that's a negative 1 there. Well, you don't have to pretend, it is. And I'm going to distribute instead of trying to subtract. 1 plus 6i, it's okay if I drop the parentheses, plus 6 minus 2i, and then distribute that negative. So negative 1 times negative 7 is a positive 7, so plus 7, and then negative 1 times positive 5i is a minus 5i. All right, let's get our real numbers together first, so combine our real numbers. So I've got 6 plus 1 gives me 7, and then 7 plus 7 gives me 14. All right, so 14 is my real answer. And then again, I'm putting triangles around my imaginary parts. right? And I'm using a different color, right? 6i minus 2i gives me 4i, minus 5i gives me negative I. So that would be my answer for question 18 as well. If you have any questions after this video or after class, please do not hesitate to email me